What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day today and I hope it gets even better from watching this video. Today we're chatting all about how to actually become a happy person, like how to live a life that's authentic to you, meaningful and fulfilling, and just a life that you're excited to wake up to, because who doesn't want that? I honestly know a little something about this topic because I used to be so incredibly unhappy. I was at a mental hospital. Like, it was a bad time. And I kind of dedicated myself to completely turn my life around and actually create a life for myself that I love and I'm excited about. You really can turn your life around, but even if your situation is not that dramatic, even if you're just in a little bit of a funk or you're just trying to find some tips to be even happier, then you're in the right place. By the way, I have so much to say about this topic, so if at the end of the video you want to see more, you just let me know and I'll do a part 2. But today we're gonna really dive in and we're gonna do a strategic step-by-step guide to become happy. I've got some exercises, some journaling prompts, and I think it's also so important to really understand a topic to make a difference. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But if you're new here, hi, I'm Nika. I make videos all about self-improvement and I like to make them very strategic, organized, to-do list form so you can actually make a big change. So if that works for you, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around. I also have my social media if you want to see more of my personal life, and we can keep these chats going. Also, I finally launched the Notion template you guys have been waiting for. It's called a life design planner, so I'll link it down below if you've been waiting for it. Thank you for your patience. It's basically where you can set and track your habits, your goals, and your routines, and you can also plan your months, your weeks, your days, and there's so much more. So I'll leave a link to that below, as well as a video that I did where I went over the whole system if you're interested. Alrighty, now let's get into how to actually be happy. We're gonna start with understanding your core values, because I really feel like that's the most important thing when it comes to your happiness, and it's something I don't really hear many people talk about. Living a happy life means that you're living in accordance with your core values. So when you're committed to your core values, you're naturally prioritizing things that make you feel happy, things that fulfill you and are important to you. So the simple guide, or our compass to happiness, is to figure out what our core values are, which we'll get to, and then commit to them and prioritize them. We're gonna imagine what it's like when this is not working, when it's the opposite. So we're gonna talk about self-sacrificing, which is such a common thing to do when you're unhappy. I used to do this. So it basically means you're prioritizing everyone else and what everyone else wants. You're basically a people pleaser. You're doing things that you think you should be doing and things that, make you seem like a good girl and you're successful and you're amazing in the eyes of whoever. And if that's not in alignment with your values and what you actually find meaningful and important, of course you're going to be unhappy, because you're spending so much of your time doing the things that you actually don't really care about and don't find meaningful. And what ends up happening is that you literally wake up to a life that doesn't even feel like your own. You're living someone else's life. So let's say you were born very creative, and let's just imagine your core values are creativity and freedom. That is what actually makes you happy, what makes you feel alive, what makes your life feel meaningful and fulfilling. But you grew up with a mom whose main priority is status and how you all as a family appear to your community, to the neighborhood, to whoever. And she basically raised you to become a doctor. So let's say you go along with that. Let's say you don't want to disappoint your mom and you want to please everyone and you go into medicine. Obviously, you're not going to be very happy, because medicine is not really a career that I would choose for someone who's very creative and wants to be free. It's kind of the opposite of that. Just the school part alone would be unbearable to someone who just wants to be creative and free, Let's talk about 2 really important things that might make starting to live in accordance with your values and prioritizing your happiness a little bit difficult, and let's dismantle them, and then we'll get into how to actually figure out your values. Number 1, you might feel shame for the values that you have. So let's say you're someone who really wants to make a lot of money. That is your main priority and your biggest goal in life. And so when you mention that to other people, when you talk about it, a lot of people have a reaction of, that's shallow. What about love, and what about, things that are actually meaningful and important, blah, blah, blah. And so it's completely understandable that you would start to feel shame, and then it's really hard to make those goals happen and to keep going even when things get hard if you feel shame for wanting that in the first place, and if you feel like you shouldn't want the things that you want. And by the way, making money is not a value. Making money is either a wish or a want or a goal. It is not a value. What your core value could be here, if this is very important to you, is like security, safety, maybe it's achievement, maybe it's freedom. It's different for everyone. And when you understand what that core value is, it's so much easier to achieve the things that you want, because first of all, it kind of gets rid of the shame, because you get it. Like, if I want to make a lot of money and my reason is because I want to feel really secure and give myself security, which I might have never had in my life, that makes complete sense. I don't feel shame for that. I'm like, I get it. And also, by committing to this value, it makes achieving these goals so much easier, because when you reach hardships and challenges, it doesn't rock the boat as much. Like, your core is so strong because you know exactly why you're doing the things that you're doing, and they are so important to you. That's why people talk about your why being so important. When you're reaching your goals, it's actually all about your values. Another challenge or hard part about this is that your subconscious mind often prioritizes safety over you doing the things that actually bring you fulfillment. That's why change can be so hard, because it's scary to go out of your comfort zone and do something that you've never done before. Your subconscious mind is like, alarm bells, this is not safe, this is not familiar. I have a whole video about this, so I'll link that here. The solution to this is just to make your values conscious, to be aware of them. And you have values in pretty much every category of your life, whether that's friendship, relationships, family, career, the way you spend your free time, what you do to be active. Like, you have values everywhere. You might just not be aware of them. Alrighty, now let's actually get into how to figure out your values. And by the way, this might take a little bit of time. Like, you don't have to do all of this in one sitting, but I highly recommend either journaling, doing it in your notes, and then you can just keep adding to it as you get to know yourself and your happiness more. So let's start with exploring your happiness. So you're gonna write down what has in the past, when you look at your life, brought you the most happiness. When do you actually really, really enjoy yourself and just love living? Just like love being here. Also, when were you the most proud of yourself? And when did you actually feel fulfillment and like the things you were doing or experiencing were meaningful, like your life was meaningful? Another really fun exercise you can do is to pretend that you're the happiest you've ever been. If you can't do this on your own, just by like thinking about it or writing about it, there are so many like dream life visualizations and things like that. So you can listen to like a guided one, and then you can like imagine what your happiest life would look like, and then just write it down. Like, who are you spending your time with? Like, what are those people like? How do you show up differently in those friendships or relationships? How is your lifestyle different? How are your hobbies different? What do you do career-wise? Like, what actually brings you that passion, excitement, and happiness and makes you feel super fulfilled and like you're living a life that is meaningful and you're so excited to wake up every day? Just have a very, very clear vision of that. Again, you can do the guided visualizations. There's so many for free on YouTube. You can also make this visual if you want to do like a vision board based on this. Just again, imagine that you're living your happiest life and you're just the happiest you've ever been. How does that look like? Get very, very granular and go into every single detail, nook and cranny that you can find. Also, when you're imagining this dream life, ask yourself, like, what am I actually doing differently? What am I doing more of? What am I doing less of? Again, that will just give you more information and details. So when you look at everything that you've written, and again, this might take a little bit of time, it's going to give you a very kind of clear idea about your values, or at least it's going to point you to them. So if in this dream life vision or everything, all the journaling prompts you did, you realize that you actually feel the happiest and the most alive when you're really creative, maybe you work for yourself, when you can afford to travel and just fly to the seat of your own pants. Is that the expression? Just basically go anywhere, do whatever you want. Maybe one of your core values is freedom. That would make sense, right? If you're like heavily career oriented and you just want to climb this ladder and that gives you genuine excitement and happiness, maybe one of your core values is achievement. If you're someone whose relationships are the most important to you and that is where you're the happiest, that is when you shine. Maybe your core value is like connection or belonging. One of my core values, for example, is security. Like it shows up everywhere in my life. I need to feel secure. That is why I'm in a relationship that I'm in. That is why I have this career as an influencer, but I have something else on the side, even though I don't have to, just to feel secure and like I'm gonna be okay. Same thing with my finances. Like I'm so into my budget and saving because again, it makes me feel secure. And there's so many ways that this shows up, but that is one of my core values, for example. And again, your values show up in every area of your life. So don't just look at career, look at every single aspect of your life. Also, by the way, your values can change as you grow up, go through life, as you experience different things. So just keep that in mind. The last little tip exercise that I have to really figure out what your values are is to look at your wishes, wants, and goals and ask yourself, what would having that mean to me? So let's say one of my biggest goals is to make X amounts of money. So what would having that mean to me? In my case, it would make me feel secure. It would give me security. And that is my core value. By the way, you might have to ask yourself that question a few times to actually get to the core value. So yeah, that's another really great way to figure out your values, especially now if you've like set goals for yourself for 2024 and you can figure out if those goals are actually meaningful to you. Okay, now that you've got all of this written out, you've done the exercises, you kind of have an idea what your values are. Again, this might take a little bit of time. That's okay. You're going to write them down and then you're going to rank them in terms of priority. So obviously, number one value is going to be the one that's most important to you and the one that's going to be the most important for you to commit to and stick to. So let's say my values are creativity and freedom. When I looked at like my career, the way I like to spend my free time, my lifestyle, I really saw that I need creativity and freedom. And then I also really need security. I need like to have some money on the side. I need to have a job that's stable. I need to have a few sources of income, whatever it might be. Let's then say that when I look at my relationships, friendships, family, I can really see that value or like feeling of belonging is really important to me. So we're adding belonging on that list. And then let's say playfulness as well. I really see that again in relationships. I need things to be a little fun and quirky. When I look at my home, the way I spend my free time, I know that being playful is super important to me as well. So you have the list of, let's say, these 5 values, you've ranked them in terms of priority. And now you're gonna look at your life, figure out how have you been living in accordance with these values? How are you doing that already? How are you not living in alignment with those values? And then how can you change that? Like what improvements can you make? What can you do differently? And it's really crazy because when I did this exercise and when I looked back on like my life and the things that made me really unhappy, relationships, career moves, lifestyle choices, everything, it makes so much sense. And with every single scenario, I could see that I was not living in accordance with my values. I was basically doing the opposite and it was making me very unhappy. So it just gives you like understanding of why certain things don't work for you and also a blueprint of what you can now do, like what direction you should move in. It's honestly pretty simple, but it is a practice. Like you practice living in accordance with your values and you might make some missteps and be like, okay, I made that decision, made me unhappy. So how can I make a different decision now that's actually going to make me happy, where I can live my life in accordance with my values and feel excited and feel fulfilled and like my life is meaningful and what I'm doing is meaningful to me. Okay, my camera died, but what I wanted to say is that you can start living in accordance with your values today. And it's so important to do that because so many people are like, okay, I'm gonna start living a life that actually makes me happy when I actually do XYZ. So an example here, I'm miserable in my job. It makes me so unhappy. It sucks all the life out of me, but I'm gonna stay in this job for the next 15 years so that then after that I have the means to actually live the life that I want to live. And obviously it's not realistic for most people to quit their job tomorrow or 3 weeks from now. You know, that is not what I mean. But you can actually start living in accordance with your values in other ways. You can start choosing your happiness in the ways that you can, and changing your job might not be realistic right now, but it's a domino effect. So for example, you might start living in accordance with your values and really committing and choosing your happiness when it comes to your free time, your relationships. And let's say you stumble upon knitting and you realize you have a real talent and it's really in alignment with your values. You can do it from anywhere, you can be creative, blah, blah, blah. And you start making things for your friends, they tell their friends, and then you open an Etsy shop and then you start a whole other business. And then at some point you're able to quit your job or change your job or or whatever it might be. You know, it's a domino effect. And so just focus on the things that you can control and the things that you can change, and then it will just snowball. That has honestly been my experience. I feel like when you're living in accordance with your values and you're genuinely so happy, I've really seen that happen to me personally, and so many doors just naturally opened, and I started slowly. Let that first domino fall and then just take the next step and the next step, and make sure that each one is something that you're actively choosing and it's in accordance with your values and it's making you happy. That is the main point. It's making you happy. It is your life. It is your responsibility. It might not be fair that, you know, you've gotten on the wrong path because someone forced you or bulldozed you into it, whether it was your parents or whoever, society, whatever. Sure, you can be upset about it, annoyed about it, feel resentful, whatever. But at some point, you got to put your big girl pants on and get on with it and figure out a way to make things better. Life is not always fair. That is a reality. There's so many things that happened in my life that I do not think were fair at all. But I learned from it and I moved on with newfound knowledge that just made me better. And so it's your job to take responsibility over your life and make a difference. The people who led you astray are not going to do that. And it's not their responsibility, honestly. It's up to you what you do with your life. That can be a little scary or intimidating, but it also makes you feel empowered. Like, it feels good to feel like I can choose for myself. I can make a difference for myself. And as you do that more and more, you become more confident and you really see the proof of that. And it feels amazing, honestly. By the way, I have a whole video about victim mentality, so I'll link that here. I used to be one, so no judgment, but my life really did a whole 180 when I changed this pattern. I could have never made a change if I was constantly wallowing and feeling bad for myself and blaming everyone else and just recycling the same stories over and over again and the same excuses. Like, I would have done absolutely nothing. I would have still been in the same spot. So I highly recommend checking that out if you resonate with this. And it's, again, no judgment or shame. I've been there. Trust me. Alrighty, guys, that is it for all of my tips for the day. I have so many more when it comes to this topic, so just let me know if you want to see a part 2, and I'll film that for you. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around for the next one. And again, you can check out my social media if you want to see more of my personal life and follow along, and we can keep these chats going. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!